NotebookLM just got a huge upgrade for its audio overview feature, the AI podcast, where two AIs have a conversation about the sources that you upload. This update lets you target your specific use case for learning, teaching, or productivity, making it an excellent tool for students, teachers, and knowledge workers or corporate workers.
What if we could personalize that journey just for you and maybe even supercharge our daily work while we're at it?
Hi, my name is Callum, also known as Wanderloots, and welcome to today's video on the upgrade to NotebookLM's audio overview feature, customizable AI podcasts for learning, teaching, and productivity. In today's video, I'm going to walk through the upgrade, showing you the 4 different types of audio and how I would piece them together into an ideal workflow for learning and productivity. A reminder to please like and subscribe if you find this video helpful. I'm working on making YouTube my full-time career, so any support you can give me is very much appreciated. I'm also going to make the audio overviews, the AI podcasts I generate today, available for my YouTube members. So consider joining if you want to see the full result of what I build today. Now, let's dive into NotebookLM's upgraded audio overview. The new NotebookLM audio overview, or AI podcast, you're able to go through and modify how the audio overview, the AI podcast, is generated for what you're trying to learn, teach, or generally improve your productivity at work. You can control the length and you can choose the language along with customization. I'm going to go through each of these in more depth and then present you with a workflow in phase 1 where we're going to add sources based on discovered sources in NotebookLM, your own notes from Obsidian, and academic research from a platform like Consensus. Then I'm going to walk through that practical workflow that I was just showing you here, how we can actually use all 4 audio types to help you learn, teach, and be more productive. And then finally, I'm going to walk through a series of use cases that I could see different people using, like students, educators, and knowledge workers or corporate workers, so that you can have a better sense on how you can use all 4 of these audio overviews in your workflow. Let's get started. Okay, so there's 4 types of audio overviews you can generate now. There's the brief, which is a 1 to 2 minute overview, a deep dive, which goes much more in depth on whatever the topic is that you're exploring, a debate, where we have the 2 AIs in the podcast have a dialogue back and forth where they're actually debating a particular topic. So that's great for giving you multiple perspectives to try and see both sides of an issue. And then finally, we get into the critique, which is a way that you can get the AI to audit or analyze your documents, or for example, the debate or deep dive audio overview. So that way you can, again, get another perspective on the creation of the audio overview based on the sources that you're putting in there. So the default when you go into audio overview, and I'll show you how to get this set up in a moment, is the deep dive, which is the normal conversation that you have. I found that this tends to be from 10 to 15 minutes long for default, but you can also increase the length as you want. The brief should be 1 to 2 minutes, and the critique and the debate can also be a little bit longer. And again, you can control the length based on what you're looking for. And you're always able to, for each audio overview, customize what you want the AI host to focus on in that episode. The idea is that you can use the default format, the deep dive, brief, critique, and debate, without any customization, and that will give you an overview of all of the sources that you've put in here. But if you want the AI to focus on specific things, then you can customize it here. But now let's take a look at how I would actually go about generating one of these audio overviews. So my thought here is that when you're trying to explore a topic, rather than just jumping right into a deep dive based on all of these sources here, it might be better to see how the AI generates the brief audio overviews, so that way you can listen to a few of them that are each 1 to 2 minutes long, and then you can decide which one is the most interesting, which one makes the most sense for doing that deep dive. So in that way, we can actually not just use the features in isolation, but we can use them to help connect the AI podcast to help us dive deeper into our own learning or productivity. And I think this kind of matches how I would generally do research. When I'm looking into a topic, I don't just instantly start having a debate or critiquing something. I don't immediately jump into a deep dive. Instead, I survey the information and try and find the topics and the concepts that I'm most interested in. Then once I've done a deep dive on each one, I can start to debate or go back and forth and see how the various viewpoints on the topics that I've done deep dives into relate to one another, how they compare. And then finally, once I've produced my output, it'd be nice to have something that can critique what I've output, whether it's an essay or a presentation or an article. I can then dive deeper and do that critique. You can also add class notes, essay drafts, presentation outlines. The idea is that as you go through and make these audio overviews and listen to them and look at the mind map and add more sources, this is an ever-evolving system here that you're always adding to. As I listen to the audio overviews, I can add them in here, or write notes in Obsidian and drop the notes in here so that I'm constantly recalibrating the information in this notebook to continue making it as effective for my particular use case as possible. So the first thing you would do is create a new notebook, and right away you're prompted with this ability to upload your own sources, add them from Google Drive, link a website or a YouTube video, or use this Discover Sources function. And just a quick note that if you're interested in learning more about NotebookLM and all the features that I'm talking about today, specifically I'm going to go through the Discover Sources, how you can connect NotebookLM and Obsidian, along with the Mindmap feature. I've got a video on all of these components, so I recommend checking them out if you want to go deeper into each specific topic. But today we're going to be focusing on the audio overview. So I'm going to quickly get the notebook set up. The first thing I might do as part of my workflow here is insert sources, and I can do this by discovering sources. And you can choose if you want the sources to come from the internet or from your Google Drive, which that might actually even be a new feature. I haven't seen that before. Let's just say I want to learn more about the use of AI in learning and education and its effectiveness. I can just type this prompt in, click submit, and it's going to go through and search the internet for sources that relate to that particular topic. And then I can go through and I can choose if I want to uncheck them from the side here or if I want to import the sources. So there's always max 10 sources with each search. And then I'm going to go discover a few more sources. And this time I'm going to use the use of AI in knowledge work and its impact on productivity. And these look pretty good. Again, you can go through and audit the sources to make sure that they're of the quality that you're looking for. So now we've got 20 sources in here. You can go through and add whatever sources you want. So let's say you are a student and you want to drop in your course syllabus in here. You'd be able to have that note in there so that you'd be able to use all of the topics you're going to be learning about and incorporate it into the audio overview, the video overview, the mind map, and any of the reports in the studio on the side here. So you could drop in your own voice notes on your presentation ideas for work. You could drop in meeting notes. There's a lot that you can add in here, and you can just add more and more sources to customize this specific notebook. And I believe you get up to 50 sources in the free version of NotebookLM. So if you're looking not to just have the internet here, but you want to have more credible information, you can go and use a tool like Consensus, where you're able to limit specifically by different types of academic research. So for example, right now I have this as AI in work and education, but maybe I also want to bring in knowledge management because I talk a lot about knowledge management with Obsidian and how we can use knowledge management alongside AI to boost our learning, teaching, and productivity. So I just made another video on how I can use Consensus for academic research. And I've gone through and done a deep dive. You can see there's 49 papers here that have all been researched by the AI. So now what I can do is I can go grab perhaps the most impactful papers, the use of knowledge graphs to make AI more transparent. I think working in academia as a student or an educator and also in the workforce, we really want AI to be more transparent so we know how it's working. So that could be an interesting paper to grab. And then I could just go here, click choose file, and drop in that academic paper. So again, I'm boosting the credibility of the sources that I'm going to use before I generate the audio overview. So I think that's the key here is we don't want to just generate some generic overview. We want to make sure that these overviews, whether video, audio, mind map, or the reports, are targeted at what we're trying to learn, teach, or generally just to improve our productivity. It could be for consulting, for corporate work, for any type of knowledge system that you want to apply this to. Cool, so that completes phase 1, and now we can get into phase 2. Once we've dropped in the sources, we have these 4 different audio overviews that we can generate. We can always just do the default one and just click generate, and that's fine. But now that we have these specific customizations, we have the different options to filter here. I thought that it might make sense to have an initial workflow idea that I could give you on how I might use all 4 of these together. So my initial thought is once we've inserted the sources, we can then generate a mind map using the mind map feature here. And that will take all 19 sources that we put in here, and it will go and extract all of the key topics. So that could be a good way to give us a glimpse on maybe what topics do we want to have a brief overview on. Because once we have a brief overview on the topic, we can then decide which one of those brief overviews do we want to do a deep dive on. That way we can use the existing tools like the mind map and the brief audio overview to help us identify what's the actual core concept that we want to dive deeper into for whatever our use case is. So once we've generated the mind map, it pops up on the side here, and you can see we have AI and knowledge work. That's the macro category. And then it goes through and it has all of the different major topics that were pulled out of these particular 19 sources. So now what I would do is I would just explore. So maybe AI adoption trends in data. That could be interesting to see how are people actually using AI in different use cases. Here's specific components on knowledge graphs and AI performance. So that's bringing in the PDFs I was talking about. Cool. So here's a whole bunch of different individual concepts that can be subsequently broken down into further subcomponents. But what I could do is maybe say what I'm most interested in is prioritizing accessibility and personalization. So now if I go back to the audio overview, I could go generate a brief and say, focus on AI personalization and customization for knowledge work and education. And now it's going to start generating here. And this can take a couple minutes. And that's where it's kind of cool because you can also generate multiple of these at the same time. But here we go. The first one's ready. So let's give it a listen.
Artificial intelligence, right? It's really evolving fast. We're seeing it shift from just general tools to systems that are like super personalized for you. And it's completely shaking up how we learn and how we tackle our jobs, promising, way more efficiency and making things more engaging. So what does this actually mean on the ground? Let's break down 3 key takeaways.
Okay, so as I'm listening to that, I would probably create a new note here and say, these are the 3 key takeaways from that brief one that I just had. So you can start to see how this identified just a few more paths that I could then go deeper into. And maybe I do the same thing for the hidden costs. You get the idea. I can go through and I can survey all of the topics from this mind map. I can add more sources in there and I can continue iterating until I find something that makes me think, you know what, that is what I want to go deeper into. So let's go to the next phase. A quick note that the free tier of NotebookLM only lets you have 3 audio overviews per day. So you might have to think how you can conserve them and use them strategically across your days, or upgrade to the Pro version where you get up to 20 per day. Many students in the US get the Pro version for free, so you can check to see if you're eligible. You can also think how you can generate some audio overviews for a specific course or particular presentation one day, and then continue the next day, and just iteratively build out your audio overviews as you need them. We'll go to the deep dive, and maybe I will say, focus on the use of knowledge management to enhance AI for use in education, learning, and knowledge work. Productivity, focusing on how AI can personalize systems and augment productivity. So I'll click generate, and you'll notice that that came from my listening of that initial concise overview of the tools here based on the mind map concept that I identified. I'm using all of these different generations to help me figure out what is it that I want to dive deeper into. And now I can generate the deep dive audio overview. Perfect, that just finished. So that took about 4 minutes or so. And what you'll notice here is that with the deep dive, not only do we have the option to play, but we also have the option to do interactive mode. And what that means is as you're listening to the deep dive, if you choose interactive mode, you can pause and ask questions, and the AI podcast will update to accommodate your question in its analysis. Let's give it a listen.
We're living in a world that's just, overflowing with data, right? Information everywhere. How do we possibly cut through all that noise to actually be well-informed? We all want that shortcut to genuine insight. And, what if we could personalize that journey just for you and maybe even supercharge our daily work while we're at it?
That's exactly it. And what's fascinating is how cutting-edge AI, especially when you combine it with smart knowledge management, thoughtful ways of organizing information. It's not science fiction anymore. It's actually reshaping how we learn, how we work.
Cool. So that gives you a glimpse on how we're now having 2 different AIs have a conversation back and forth. And it's specifically targeting my question on personalized AI in learning and productivity. I'm not able to show you the interactive component just because I'm using my mic to record this video, but you could use that interactive component and ask questions to the podcast as you're going, and they will answer and then continue from where they left off. I can download these audio overviews, and what I can do is I can go here and click Add Sources, and I can add those 3 sources that we just created as podcasts in here. So now when I go generate my next audio overview, the debate, I can specifically ask the AI to focus on those same concepts that we were just talking about, focus on the use of knowledge management systems and AI, and whether they actually have a positive impact on education and productivity for learning and knowledge work. So now I can generate this debate, and it's going to incorporate the podcasts that were already included in here, which were a summary of all of the sources. So now we start to give the AI a bit more focus on what it is that we're actually interested in. Because I've gone through now, and I've continued expanding my research from the mind map on all of the key topics that were in the resources that I brought in to generate the various audio overviews of the deep dive and the briefs, and now I can use those as source material to give into the debate to see how the AI debates based on the synthesis of this existing research. And again, the goal is that as I'm taking notes, as I'm researching, as I'm learning, I can even drop in specific reference to these For example, let's say I want to bring in the deep dive, and I can just drop it into Obsidian, and now I can just listen to that file right here. So I can keep track of the specific sources that were being downloaded from the audio overview inside of my Obsidian note, so I can go back and just listen to it whenever. So this is a good way to go through and perhaps have a research day where you're accumulating all this information and bringing it into your notes, into Obsidian or whatever your note-taking system is, to build out that knowledge management so that you're better able to continue where you left off last time. So this could be if you, for example, hit your limit because you're on the free version of NotebookLM. Maybe I do the deep dive today, process it for a while, and then tomorrow I go and ask about the debate to get more information once I have actually taken the time to go through and digest the information that's already been produced. So again, you can just go back and forth. You can keep iterating as you go, keep adding more sources, creating more sources, doing more research. The whole point is that rather than just reading a single report, you're able to customize the way the information is presented to you so that you can hone in on the information and the topics and the concepts that are most interesting to you for your particular use case, whether it's learning, teaching, or productivity at work. Okay, so now we have that debate generated. Let's give it a listen. You'll notice that the debate doesn't have the interactive mode. The debate is just listening to the conversation.
My perspective is that these AI-powered knowledge management systems primarily offer transformative benefits, things like enhanced efficiency, deep personalization, and crucially, a more strategic human focus.
And I suppose I'm coming at this from the other side. I contend that despite their, well, yes, alluring promises, the significant risks, the practical implementation hurdles, and the potential for skill degradation associated with these AI-driven systems, well, they present critical drawbacks that demand serious caution.
So you can see how now we have two different AIs, and they actually have different voices. They're having a conversation, and they're actually contesting the issue that I brought up. So this is just a great way for me to get a quick overview of what are the opinions of both sides. Is AI good for knowledge management? Is AI good for education? And rather than just continuing to do the research, I can download this audio overview, and I can potentially just go for a walk and listen to it while planning out the essay that I'm going to write on that topic so that I can speed up my essay writing. And then I can go to Obsidian, I can take notes on the debate, and once I've gone through and organized all my notes, perhaps I go and create an essay or an overview or a presentation or an article, whether I'm doing this for work or for school. And then once I'm done that, I can take that article, or in this case, the debate just for now, and I can drop that into my sources. And maybe it's my article or my essay or my research synthesis, my ideas, my notes. I can drop this in here. And now I can go over to the audio overview again, and I can generate a critique. And I can say focus specifically on the arguments presented in the debate on AI for education and knowledge work and its impact on learning and productivity. So now I can generate an audio overview that's specifically targeting whether or not the arguments in the debate were actually good or not, or whether the arguments I've presented in my essay or my article or my presentation for work are good, or if they have some holes in it. So this is where you can use the AI as a sounding board to go back and forth and iterate on the quality of what you are producing as a human. So it's not using AI to replace the work that you're doing, but it's using AI to improve the quality of the work that you're doing in a similar time frame or a faster time frame with more personalization and improve the quality overall. So you can really focus on making this the most effective tool possible for your own learning in school, the quality of your assignments that you're producing, the essays you're working, or perhaps the teaching materials that you're generating as lesson plans for your students, or the quality of the presentations or articles or materials that you're using at work. It really does add a lot of value to hear the perspective of something else first before bringing it to the rest of your team or submitting your assignment. You just get that once overview, an audit of the work that you're doing to help you deepen the quality of your work in your first draft. Okay, great. The critique has now finished. Let's give that a listen.
Okay, so diving right in, the first thing we noticed is an opportunity, really, to sharpen the whole debate aspect around AI's impact. You've got a great list of pros and cons, but maybe think about framing the inherent tensions between the benefits and risks more dynamically.
It's already giving feedback on the specific format of the debate, how it was presented more as a list rather than some synthesized argument. So I could see that being incredibly helpful for working on essays or presentations or articles or pitches, something that you've already put a lot of work into, and perhaps you've created your notes in Obsidian, and then you can drop that in to get feedback on what it is you're actually working on, and then you can implement that feedback based on the materials that you're creating. Let's take a look at a few practical use cases. So I've broken this into 3 different categories: learning, teaching, and productivity. And the goal is that this is not an exhaustive list here, but just some quick examples on how you might want to use each of the different audio types. So if you're learning, for example, maybe you've dropped in your course syllabus and you want to get a quick overview on the major topics that you're going to be learning in a semester so that you're better prepped for exams or class, you could then just generate a quick overview on the topic before you go to class. Or if you're struggling with a particular concept, you could target that as a knowledge gap and have the AI help explain the concept for you in a personalized way based on your prompt to them. I know that a lot of teachers and educators use NotebookLM, so you can use it to target learning gaps with custom audio. People will take particular issues that their students are having with learning and generate an audio overview based on that particular knowledge gap. And whether they give it to the student or just use it to help their own teaching, it's just a quick way for them to generate customized materials that will help students learn. For knowledge workers in the corporate environment, for productivity, you can generate quick product updates, you can summarize reports, you could take all of your meeting notes from the last meeting and drop it in before your next meeting so that you get a quick overview on what you talked about last time. There's really no end to how you can use these brief ones to quickly catch yourself up. Then if you need to, you can go and deep dive into complex topics, explore your research findings. You can prepare for assignments as a student. For educators, you can learn how to explain tough concepts. You can generate more analogies for what you're teaching people to effectively deepen your curriculum resources. For knowledge workers, you can prepare presentations, you can explore business strategies, analyze market trends, generally just quickly synthesize a lot of information in one overview, and then go for a walk and listen to it before you come back and start writing your article or making that presentation. For the debate, this is where you can explore more controversial themes. If you're writing, for example, an essay and you want to understand both sides of the issue, maybe you survey the issue a little bit with the debate so that you're better able to write that essay. Same with educators, you can help teach critical thinking because you're showing multiple perspectives, different viewpoints to help students learn both sides of the issue. For knowledge workers and productivity, maybe this will help you improve your brainstorming. You could do a risk-benefit analysis. You can have the AI debate various business strategies that you're thinking about doing and see what the pros and cons are for each. So again, that's a really powerful tool. And then for the critique as the final overview, you can get feedback on your essays that you're writing. So this is kind of like being able to have potentially a teacher review your essay before you submit it so that you can make your arguments a bit tighter and improve the quality of your essay. For educators, you could drop in your lesson plans and see perhaps if there's a few other examples you could include. You could review your presentations. And for knowledge workers, maybe you want to strengthen a pitch. Maybe you want to improve the team documentation that you have or improve a presentation or an article that you're working on. So you can just get that quick feedback by the AI before you go give it to the rest of your team so that hopefully the information and the quality of the report that you're building or the materials that you're generating are of a higher standard before you bring in a human to review it. So this can just generally save a lot of time, energy, and effort by having that quick review up front so that you can then improve the quality of your first draft before you then bring it to the rest of your team or to your students. I hope that this shows you how I would use this type of workflow to leverage each of the different types of audio overviews that are now available. You can download all of them, you can go for a walk, and you can learn or improve the quality of what it is you're working on as you go. And the whole time you're adding more articles, more information into your sources here so that the quality of this notebook on that particular topic, that particular assignment or presentation can continue improving as you go. NotebookLM isn't just a research tool. It's a learning tool, a teaching tool, a productivity tool. Now with the AI audio overviews being so customizable, you can really target how you can use this tool to use AI to augment your workflows in your daily life. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing or sharing with a friend. Word of mouth is by far the best way to help me grow my channel, so I appreciate any support. If you're interested in going deeper into any of the topics that I talked about today or any of the features of NotebookLM, I have a full AI learning playlist that I recommend checking out because I expand on a lot of these topics in much more depth. If you're interested in learning more how NotebookLM fits into my overarching ecosystem for my personal knowledge management system, I recommend checking out my playlist on Obsidian and personal knowledge management. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.